All right, welcome back. We are rocking and rolling today. I'm going to make this quick as possible, but we are pulling the transmission out of the Trans Am in order to put in the 4L80E. So I'm going to try to move fast because I'm way behind on this deal. So here we go. All right. I already pulled my caps off of my drive shaft. Boom. Bang and bang. So I'm gonna pop the drive shaft out as step number one for me. All right, with my caps off, work our caps out. Try not to knock the cap off of your U-joint. Take some time, wrap that with tape or something so you keep your U-joints together. As you can tell, this thing is not just sliding right out. We've got a, let's see, there we go. I just had to hold her mouth right. Dang, I just hit my head on the lift. All right, so after that, you slide it out of the transmission if you can. May need to take a little persuading. Seems like it's a little on the long side. There we go. Just need to bust it loose. All right, shaft is out. And we're gonna have a custom shaft made because it's gonna be shorter. The 4L80 is longer than the Turbo 350, so keep that in mind. Okay, so we do have a new cross member. You've seen the previous video if you've been watching the series. We have a new cross member for the 4L80E that allow it to be mounted properly in the subframe. So I think next what I'm going to do, I already popped out my oxygen sensors because they're going to be in the way coming out, and I don't want to damage brand new oxygen sensors, so I took them out on both sides of the headers. We've got to get the bell housing bolts out. We got to get transmission mount bolts out, cross member bolts out. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take the nut off of this, pull my bolts out of the cross member, and just let it sit here while I get the bell housing bolts out. My converter bolts are already out because I didn't put them in when we were going, thought we were going with the Turbo 350 deal. We're not, so here we go. All right, since I'm trying to move fast, I'm using air, and one of my air hoses is about to need to be replaced. You hear it leaking, I apologize. I got my fans going too because it's 75 degrees outside today, and it's getting hot in here. It's 80 in here already, so we're gonna keep rocking and rolling here. The lift pad is on top of my bolt. Oh, I gotta let the car down. Move the lift. And that one's spinning. I figured that all do. Alright, just like that, the power of editing, we're back. Shit. All right. Okay. Put my nuts on my bolt so I don't lose my nuts. Those don't want to come out. I got a little bit of pressure on them probably. All right, it's fine. We'll get those out in a little bit. All right, we're gonna pop that off. All right, so the transmission cross member is loose, transmission mount is loose. I may have to take the two nuts out of the transmission itself. I don't know yet. We're going to get the bell housing bolts out and get my transmission jack up under here and pray that it still works. All right, sometimes I've got to get around a tight bend, so I'll double up these ball joint swivels. I like to use these Impact Universals. Sorry about the compressor. I use two of them. If I'm in a tight spot and I need to get around something. Sometimes I'll do that with a long extension to get these bell housing bolts. There you go. Another quick tip I can give you if you're working by yourself and you got a trans jack like this, I always like to throw a strap around them. I'll get my strap weaseled over the transmission somehow or another and get it strapped to the jack. That way it can't fall off. Just a little added security. You don't want to drop a transmission on the ground. That would suck, especially if it's a good one. That one not so much, but it can be rebuilt hopefully, and maybe we'll do that one day on the channel. I'm not sure, but we're gonna wiggle that thing out of there and see what we got. All right, another thing I may need to get in place before I do this is a screw jack, just to put it up under the engine. That way if the engine starts coming down as I pull the transmission out, it won't come down too far. Don't have to worry about a distributor with an LS motor, but you're working with a big block, small block Chevrolet or something like that with a distributor in the back, the engine starts leaning back, you can damage the distributor real quick with the distributor leaning up against the firewall. Yeah. All right, I got my screw jack in place and I can crank up and down on that engine angle as I need to. Probably won't need to very much. With the bolts out, I already can see about a 1/4 inch of daylight in between the bell housing of the engine and the bell housing of the transmission. So I'm gonna try to go up on it just a little bit and see if I can get this transmission mount or cross member out. Must be up on the floor already because it is pushing on the car. So if I can get these bolts out. If I can get these bolts out, I might be able to slide it. There's that one. Put that on it while I can. Now I'm gonna have to take this mount off, which is 2 9/16, no big deal. They are holding me up. They're longer than I thought they were. One. And here comes number 2. All right. Still need that. Well, hang on. Just like a big screwdriver. It's right above your head. Bam. Cable's in the way, it might hit me in the face. Alright. I'm going to try to go up on it a little more. Definitely don't want to see the car coming off my lift. I think what it is my jack's not holding. Afraid of this. Here we go. Bam. I was afraid afraid that this transmission jack wouldn't work. It's about as old, well, it's 18 years old. I got it when I started my shop. So it's given me trouble over the years. It's not the best transmission jack in the world. It's about as cheap as you can get. I think I got that thing from Northern Hydraulic Tool when I first opened my shop, and I had to get the cheapest one they had, and it's pulled a bunch of transmissions over the years, let me tell you. All right, let's see if we can wiggle this thing out. Let a little bit off of it. Stuff. Walk itself back on the dowels. It was just barely off. Something. Oh, I'm an idiot. Forgot to take the very top bolt out. So what happened was the transmission kind of did this number right here, and I took all the bolts out except for the very top one. I forgot that one was in there. I'm used to the bell housing on GM, Chevrolet, or small block, big block deal, not this LS where they got that freaking bolt at the very peak at the top. Let me get that thing out real quick. Like I said before, a long extension and a swivel is your friend. All right, let's try this again. Hey, it comes off a lot easier with all the bolts out of it, huh? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it does. All right, let's come down a little bit. All right. Well, there's another look at my bell housing, my Ultra Bell deal. Nice spider in there. Yeah. Too bad we didn't get a chance to try that out. Too much shrapnel inside the transmission. All right, so I gotta get this one off and get that one on the stand and start putting it back up in there. We're lucky that we had already gone with a 4L80E flywheel, or flex plate rather, to accommodate the Turbo 350 stuff, so we don't have to change the flex plate out. So we should just be able to get right to stabbing this 4L80E right in there. All right, don't forget your dowels. I forgot them the first time I put the Turbo 350 in, so I just popped them out of the bell housing. They were stuck in the bell housing of the 350. That's ratchet straps, by the way. I popped them out and tapped them into the bell housing of the engine like they should be. Now we can slide the 4L80 in without having to wrestle it too bad, hopefully. So we're going to take a lift and get this transmission off and get the other one on. All right, with both trannies out and on the floor side by side, I just want to kind of give a comparison, just see, you know, we're having some questions among the group that I'm in if this thing's going to fit easily or not. I think it will, because I've had a second gen before with a turbo 400 in it and didn't have any issues. And this is basically the same thing, just a little longer. You can see the turbo 350 next to it is not much different, really, with the LS bell housing on it. Ultra bell. About halfway through, we've got about 11 inches maybe of height, and it's about the same on the 4L80. Got about 27 inches of length, and this one's about 31. So except for a few inches of length difference, I really don't think there's much of a difference. I mean, the pan is definitely a lot longer on the 4L80 than the turbo 350, but the cross member should make up for that kind of stuff. And you can modify the stock cross member, but you got to cut it up and re-weld it and all that stuff. I just didn't want to attempt that. I'm not saying I couldn't do it, I just didn't want to spend the time doing it. And I wanted something that's just going to be a direct bolt in, and not my backyard fabrications. I want this car, again, we were trying to do everything really nice on this car, make sure it's done right, and we don't have to go back and do anything again. I don't want to mess with geometry too much. Let somebody else that's a pro figure that math out, and I'll just bolt it in. All right, so I've got to get the converter in it before I put it in. I should have slid it in when it was on the floor, so I don't have to deadlift it all the way up here. And it's got a little bit of assembly lube I can see on its front seal, but I want to make sure it's got enough. Definitely don't want to damage your seal going in. I'll put a little bit on the snout of the converter too. Let's get here. That thing just got heavy all of a sudden. This converter's heavy. It says it's a 20. They say it's a 2500 stall. They say this cam and this motor has a surge until about 2500. So I'm hoping this is enough converter. What I'm doing is I'm turning it as I'm spinning it, and I'm getting it down into the pump. Usually you'll have 3 drops on most cars. Sometimes you won't feel the first one, but you just want to keep kind of picking up and spinning thing kind of, I think it's already dropped all the way in. Yeah, it's had to. It's all the way up against. I'll show you. There's no gap left, basically. So we've got it all the way in. It's way in from the bell housing, as you can see. We should be good to go. Now we can put it up the rest of the way. Put a little lube on the dowel pin holes. This is trans gel. It's basically the same thing. It is the same thing as Vaseline. So you can get a big thing of Vaseline and do the same thing. Lube your hole up, boys. Now put a little on the dowels. And I hope I'm not regretting. You know what I'm going to do before I stab this up in there? I'm going to go ahead and put my fittings in. I don't want to have to fight this thing up in the bell housing. They look awful high, or up in trans tunnel, I mean. They're awful high up, so let's go ahead and change those out. Alright, so we're going to run these fittings out. The back one feeds the back side of the transmission, or maybe the tail housing area, or is longer. You can see it has a longer shaft on it. The front one's not like that. So put it there for now. You can see the front one shorter, back one's longer. So when you get the kit, we got a Russell kit. It's adapter fittings for a 4L80-6A. You can see they come short and long. And they are O-ringed. They are O-rings, so you don't have to put any kind of special sealer on them. You can put a little bit of pipe sealer on the threads if you wanted to. I use a liquid pipe dope sometimes, but I'm not going to on these. I think it'll be fine. I did put the long one back there, didn't I? Gotta double check. That's my OCD kicking in. There we go. Long one in the back. And then on the other side, we've got to adapt the B&M shifter linkage to that. And I did buy the kit for that, so hopefully everything will go well with that. And that's our input and output speed sensor. And here's where the computer plugs up here. The older styles, to my knowledge, have a bolt hole in the center, and they're real bad about leaking. So try to stay away from those, the early 4L80s. You want the late model 4L80s, and that's what we've got. So I haven't butted it all the way up yet, but we're approaching the bottom of the headers, and you can see we've got an issue here. It's even more pronounced on this side. Well, it's because I don't have it straight, but so I don't know if I'm gonna have to loosen the header, or I mean, I can just cut these ears off. Not a problem doing that. It's not a big deal. You can whop them right through there. All this does is hold a dust shield on that we're not going to use anyway. So I may cut it. We'll see. It'll be a lot easier getting in and out with them when the ears are lobbed off. You can see on this, like on this 4L8 or the Ultra Bell, it doesn't have ears. But on the original Bell, it did. It's because of the dust shield. It's all just bolts up to the dust shield that we're not going to use anyway, so we'll see. See how much I have to wrestle it. Might be able to get in here kind of sideways. I don't know. This will be close. Oh yeah, weaseled it right in. Jack's going around backwards though. Pump holes on the front. I had to cock it over some. Make sure your wires aren't falling in your way of your bell housing. No problem. No problem. So far, at least. It's hitting the header. See it? It still needs to go up just a little bit. Not much. Nah, I don't think it's going to work without cutting that ear off. I got it up there, but it's not going to let, because of the headers, it's hitting the dang header. Let's go up a little bit on this side. Alright. Slice the ear off right there. That should clear our header now. Alright, so let's try this again. Screwdriver the wheels of my transmission lift. Here. There we go. Oh yeah. Bingo. All right, I'll show you. So far, so good. Let me get some light. See that transmission? That's what I cut off right there because it was banging that long tube. That thing is butted all the way up against the engine. We got plenty of clearance now, Clarence. All the way up on it. There's a little tiny gap, but it'll pull up. It'll pull up, no problem. Yeah, see? All right, so far, this thing is actually clearing better than the Turbo 350, to be honest with you. See how tight my lines are gonna be for the cooler line, so that she's a little tight, but we're gonna put 90s on it, so I'll have one 90 going that way and then one from here coming down this way. Alright, cross member time. Got the G-force cross member. That slides right in. Yay. Line it up in just a minute. Got the transmission mount. It says to use this as a preload plate. It's not a spacer, so it's got to be used. Looks like that thing, well, probably be a good idea if I put the bolts. We got plenty of room here to put this in place. Of course, these bolts are too fat to go through the stock holes. Thank God I got the stock bolts. I hope the stock bolts work, but the stock, or with the aftermarket deal here, they should. Not as bad as I was thinking. The bolts out of the Turbo 350 tail housing and mount work. And then the two bolts that came with the mount go in the mount. So they just didn't come with the tail housing bolts. So I'm reusing the ones out of the Turbo 350, and they seem to be fitting for the most part. On cross through. Aluminum housing. You don't want to bust the threads out of it and you'll be helicoiling it. Well, we got something accomplished today. Got the 4L80 swapped in. I got an email confirming that they have shipped my computer to run this thing. I gotta hook my linkage up. I don't know what I'm gonna do for a speedometer. I gotta figure that out. If y'all know, leave it in the comments. What am I gonna do with this thing? It won't go into this electronic transmission. That's your vehicle's speed sensor there, but we don't have that. I don't have a way to hook that up to the speedometer. Not sure how to do that yet. Gotta get this drive shaft shortened up, and probably ought to get it strengthened up. Probably just get a new shaft made. I don't know if that U-joint, that yoke, I don't know if that yoke will go in there. I doubt it. So we may have to get a yoke. Back across member. Bolted up nice and easy. I mean, had a little bit of hardware confusion for a minute, but that's okay. Had to saw off the ear of the transmission to clear the header. I got to hook up my ground still. I do have my oxygen sensors back in. Yeah, hey, feeling pretty good. Feeling pretty good about it. We hopefully that computer will come in tomorrow and I'll be able to wire that up. What else do I gotta do? Oh, I gotta make cooler lines. Just two. Get the drive shaft shortened. Put my shift linkage on. And we should have a functional 4L80 in this thing. Then the only thing I left to do is finish routing my battery cables, radiator hoses, and air, the cold air kit. And then it's just a bunch of little buttoning up stuff. And we'll be doing donuts in this thing. I mean, like Smokey and the Bandit style. Woohoo! Yeah, come on. I'm ready. All right, I'm just getting excited. This thing is finally coming close to an end. When we found that Turbo 350 basically full of shrapnel last week, kind of put me down in the dumps on this project. I've been working on this thing, chipping away at this thing by myself for so long. It seems like, you know, and we thought we'd be slinging them Smokey and the Bandit donuts today. But luckily we're moving forward. Oh, I got to wire up the cooling fan too and the fuel pump. Wire up the cooling fan and the fuel pump. But the fuel lines are ran. That's not a big deal. Like I said, lots of little stuff. It shouldn't take too long, and we'll be back on track. Hey, come back and see us in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.